It's it's Julian Assange and WikiLeaks that have returned honor to journalism. Julian is a truth teller, and that's what has upset those who continue what Goebbels called the big lie.
That was John Pilger at the very top of the show, and that was Anton Karas and the Third Man. Hi, I'm Randy Credico. This is Randy Credico live on the fly on 99.5 FM in New York City, WBAI.org. Give to the number 2, WBAI.org to support the station. This is a special Assange Countdown to Freedom. A very special one because today is Julian Assange's birthday. That's why we are making this into a video, and it will be on the website, AssangeCountdownToFreedom.com. You can watch the full video later on after this show. It is Assange's birthday, 50 years old today, July 3rd, 50 years, 10 years. He has been inside, even more than 10 years. No birthday parties outside. He's in a prison, a dank prison, kind of like Spandau, where Albert Speer was for most of his life after the collapse of the Nazi regime in Nuremberg put him there. So, and it's actually, Albert Speer was actually in much better, had much better accommodations than Julian Assange has right now. He's stuck in a cell 23 hours a day, and it's his birthday. And maybe he'll be able to talk to his partner. Maybe he'll be able to talk to his father. Maybe he'll be able to talk to his kids for 10 minutes. We'll see. But that's it. That's the birthday party he's getting. I was just in DC. WBAI covered it this last Wednesday on the 30th of June at the National Press Club. And the day after, I joined a rally in front of the Department of Justice with a whole bunch of people. So this is getting much bigger. I got to tell you, John Pilger, by the way, is my guest today. That's it. That's all. I have John Pilger, and that's it. We haven't had him on in a while. So for this 50th birthday, we're going to talk with one of Julian's closest friends, and that is the great journalist, the great filmmaker, the great author, John Pilger, whose work is ensconced inside the British Library. 61 brilliant films. You can get them all at johnpilger.com. So Wednesday press conference went great. I want to thank WBAI for carrying in that with Cornel West and John Shipton and Gabriel Shipton. It was the last leg of their 20-city tour in the U.S. Shout out to the Courage Foundation, did a brilliant job down there. Nathan Fuller, thank you for all the work you guys do. All right, so that's it. We're gonna play a little bit of music, and we'll be right back with the legend, John Pilger. So see you in a few seconds. Randy Credico live on the fly here at 99.5 FM in New York City. A special Assange Countdown to Freedom. We're joined, as I said in the preamble up front, by the world's greatest journalist, the man who has his entire collection of documentaries at the British Library. And that's John Pilger. John Pilger, you started, the Assange countdown to freedom. Did you realize that? April 11th?
God.
April.
That program that Julian and I were on together.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the first day. It went from there for about 20 weeks, and then it moved around to different places. And, now it's on our website, but it's on WBAI 99.5 FM. They started it. They covered the event yesterday, or last Wednesday, here in DC, where I'm coming from. And John, here it is, his birthday. Today is Julian's birthday, and people are demonstrating all over the world. They're having vigils at Balmoral and DC, in Sydney, and everywhere. So I don't even know where to start because we've done so many of these things. Talk about how many times you've been there on his birthday, going back to the Ecuadorian embassy.
Well, I met Julian before his 40th birthday. So the whole decade that Julian has been incarcerated in one form or another, I have known him. And I remember not long before his 40th birthday, where we were discussing why he started WikiLeaks. And that's the question that's really asked by media, regular media interviews with Julian. It's the why of all this. It's so interesting because Julian has a very moral view of transparency. He says he regards our right to transparency of government's invested power as the same as our right to freedom, right to free press. It's our right to know what power is doing in our name. He felt that very deeply, and that's, in broad terms, that's why he started WikiLeaks. He sat in a hotel room, I think it was a hotel room in Paris, and really invented the whole WikiLeaks Dropbox system so that people could leak without the authorities knowing who it was. It was a revolutionary change, and that really led to all the great revelations and important revelations that WikiLeaks has given us. But so the man has absolutely no interest in personal gain, no interest in self-aggrandizement. If anyone could, I hesitate to say this, but endure the prison conditions and the persecution that Julian has suffered through the last decade, he could. He didn't at times. We know that from the evidence, the very moving evidence given at the Old Bailey last September, that his own will faltered. He's ordinary, fragile human being, really. However, for most of it, Julian's strength has been quite extraordinary. And I would call that courage is very difficult to define, but I think that's courage. I think that's what he did, his enduring over these, let's say since his 40th birthday through to his 50th, has been courage. And we shouldn't forget that.
Right. Well, I have a difficult time. I'm up in a cabin most of the time and by myself, and I get depressed and I get lonely, and I'm thinking, what am I getting depressed and lonely about? I can walk outside, I can watch television, I can interview you, I can go for a swim, I can go to the falls, but I get depressed anyway. I could never do. I know I don't have the resilience
just what I've gone through since the pandemic and the restrictions to do what he's done, to undergo. I don't know how he's been able to survive it.
Yeah, it's difficult to know, isn't it? I agree. I often think of that myself. We all go down, but it's in such difficult circumstances when the bonds that tie us are not obvious. They can be very, very hard for many people. But when the bonds that tie you down literally tie you down, he's in a prison cell. You know, he's in a prison cell not much bigger than him if he lay down on the floor. He once attempted to run a half marathon in it. You know, he ran backwards and forwards in the prison cell. He didn't make the half marathon, but you can imagine in his will to get fit, to keep sane, he ran the length of this minute space that he's imprisoned in. So his determination to survive has been quite remarkable, and I suppose I think it has given him at times hope. This determination. I've no doubt that the fact that his extradition was rejected, albeit in a very face-saving way, by the judge in January, that has given him optimism. John Shipton tells me he speaks to Julian often. He tells me his resilience is there. So we're all hoping he's okay and that he's going to see his 50th birthday as an amazing achievement, really. He's got through this last 10 years and he really is, I think, I hope, but I believe he's in the home run. That when the High Court look at this US appeal, it will reject it. That will be in the autumn, not sure when, possibly October, and he'll walk free.
It would be nice if the Biden administration would just pull it right now, because this guy has been tortured psychologically, physically, to go through that. What he's gone through first in the Ecuadorian embassy, in 2 years and 4 months inside this dungeon. It's just amazing that they can't just say, all right, why don't they do that? What are they so afraid of? Why doesn't they'll lose face if they do it, that they'll be embarrassed that they're admitting that this whole thing was a charade?
Another way of looking at it, Randy, is why would they do it? You're asking the Biden administration, a run-of-the-mill U.S. administration,
right?
Or with all the constraints on real democracy that American presidents bring. You're asking them, to quote you, to be nice. They're not nice.
They're just not nice.
They're not. No, they're not nice. And the appeal to the Biden administration, like the appeal to Trump, which I signed because I'm prepared to go along with anything that might get him free. But I think is the expectation of that is understandable, but quite wrong. I don't think there's a hope in hell that the Biden administration would change course on this. They're just the same as the last one and the one before. Getting Julian is what they want.
Right.
And if they don't get him, that will be a triumph Julian above all, but for all of us, for freedom.
Right. Well, certainly one of the greatest individuals in the past century, and I mean that, as you are, is locked up in this place. You know, Peter Kropotkin was locked up by the Tsar Alexander in the 1870s in the Peter and Paul fortress. And he did exactly what you were saying about Julian. He walked around this with sunlight in Russia. Can you imagine in the wintertime with a little window? And he walked around that room every single day to stay sane. And he finally got out, but he only did like a year and a half and he broke out. But Julian has been there for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And well, let me ask you this. They don't want him to continue. And they've been able to repress his work for the last couple of years, even the last year in the Ecuadorian embassy when he was cut off from the outside world. So they've won in that respect. What do you think he'd be talking about now, John? What do you think his work would be focused on?
Oh, Julian will be focused on probably something that gives him intense interest. I know he's been interested in the other inmates there. He's been interested in their case. He has an insatiable curiosity, and that can often lead him to sort of study something. So his interest becomes a study. I have no doubt that he knows his own case point by point, line by line. He is always full of questions and views and ideas when the lawyers speak to him, and that hasn't changed. I get the feeling that has even strengthened that interest in subjects that not only touch him or touch his case, but touch everybody around him. It's one of the reasons he was actually, the times he can get out of the cell, he's popular at Belmarsh. People like him. They like him. He helps them when he can. So there is a community there.
What about the guards and the warden? Does he have any relationship with them?
I don't, with the governor, as they call him. Yeah, the governor has seems to run this as a personal fiefdom. Appeals to the governor, of which I've been part of several, have gone nowhere. Right in the beginning, 2 years ago, when Julian brought in, it took months to get his reading glasses, and appeals to the governor by his lawyer. His lawyer, Gareth Pierce, not only appealed to the governor direct for proper facilities, health facilities, for a computer, for a laptop, for basic things that Julian could have as an innocent man. He's not convicted of anything. He had a right to work on his own case. He didn't have the tools to do that. She appealed to the governor. She had to push that all the way up to court. She had to get a court order. So the governor, who I see, I've forgotten his name now, he's got OBE after his name. In Britain, OBE means Order of the British Empire. And it's quite, in establishment terms, a high honor. That means you've served the establishment well. They like you, give you a pat on the head, and they give something to hang on you. You never know, he may end up being knighted or something. Also ridiculous in a modern era. But I suppose to these people, it matters. So the governor when I first went to see Julian in Belmarsh, the people looked at my passport and they said, "But you're a journalist." "Yes." "Oh, you can't. No, you can't. Journalists aren't allowed. You can't see." And I said, "Well, I'm a friend of Julian. I'm not coming as a journalist. I'm coming as a friend." So a certain argument. Anyway, it went up to the governor while I cooled my heels outside the prison. Went back in. The governor approved me. So there is life in the governor's office in Belmarsh. What kind of life, I don't know.
I know.
But there we are.
Well, that pretty much answers my question. It sounds like the warden in Cool Hand Luke, you know, or the warden in Shawshank Redemption, you know, that quintessential mean guy. You know, here we're talking about the repercussions on him mentally and physically, being in that prison, emotionally. What about his family, John? I mean, on Stella and his kids. What about that? What kind of toll is this taking on them, do you think?
Well, it has a toll on Stella. I mean, I think the children, kids, small kids adapt. They know, they speak to him on the phone, they speak to him on video. Kids will be okay. They want to see him very much, but they're little kids, you know, they'll be okay. The Stella it's bruising for her. She is really the person who carries the real burden outside Belmarsh of Julian being incarcerated. The two of them are very close. They speak often. Julian, I know, depends a great deal on her. If you'd seen them in court when she was able to reach to him just through the slit in the glass, in this glass corridor that he was in, it was very touching. So it's hard for her, but, you know, she's a strong person. She knows where she's going. She's got her aim, and that's to get Julian out, and I think she'll achieve it.
Yeah, I think she's doing a wonderful job out there advocating. She's very active, doing things. I think there's an Assange boat that just floated up the the Thames. The thing that you just talked about that glass cage, that bulletproof glass. I was there. I saw it myself, and I did see her looking at him. I got a photo of it, actually, looking at him. And as he was standing up, a little sullen, you know, and I could see the anguish, as I could see John's anguish and Gabriel's anguish, looking down at him in this, you know, it's exactly the same environment. It's this glass box that he was in, that Eichmann, if you look at the Eichmann,
right.
And Eichmann, you know, murdered 6 million people.
Yeah,
and he's being treated the same way, although Eichmann got access to his lawyers immediately. They were standing right there.
Yeah. No, the lawyers had to whisper, or not whisper, but I suppose try and speak through this slit in the glass. Julian had to kneel down. I was in the public gallery looking down on him like that. He had to kneel down to see through. It's absurd. What's going on? What's this about? You know, about one of his barristers in the middle of arguing his case wants to get some instruction from his client, Julia. So he has to go and whisper through the clock. It's terrible. That whole thing was a kangaroo court. It was a travesty, and a stain, a real stain on the judicial system in this country.
I totally agree. You know, they use a kangaroo court, and people use the term, and I disagree with the term Kafkaesque, because Joseph K. had no idea why he was being tried. Julian knows exactly why he is being tried. He knows what his crime, which are no crimes. Tell us why he is being tried. He knows what it is, and so do you.
Well, he's not being tried for anything. The US has applied for him to be extradited.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So there's no, in effect, a trial, although you're right. It looks like it has everything about it as a trial. So there is a prosecution, when it's not really a prosecution, it's somebody putting forward this application to extradite somebody. And then there are those who are the lawyers representing him. No, he's convicted of nothing. Yes, there are charges in the United States, but none of those charges would apply anywhere else. I mean, you can be charged with anything in the United States.
Right.
Just about, it seems to me. I'm not saying that the whole criminal justice system is particularly any worse, but it's weird. These so-called charges go back to the Espionage Act in the First World War, which was used to round up conscientious objectors and those who opposed the First World War. So I suppose there's a connection, but they've never been used, as Daniel Ellsberg has often pointed out, until they've been used. Obama refused to use them, and it was Trump who used them, and Biden has kept going. So the whole thing has a sort of black, ridiculous side to it.
But
You're right, it is a trial in a sense. I suppose they're trying to prove that they're right to want to take Julian and try him on these absurd charges and incarcerate him forever in the United States. What kind of system does that? Very totalitarian system.
Well, and that's the thing. They give it the legitimacy. Bill Kunstler talked about this, the aura that we're doing this legally, that term legal, and people have gone to prison and died. And they use the legal process to make all tyrants, tyrannical governments use the legal process to just give it the aura of legality, whether it be Sacco and Vanzetti or Socrates or the Scottsboro Boys. They give them here it is, or show trials in Russia or whatever, in the old Soviet Union, and any place else. It's not restricted to just the U.S. People use show trials just to give it the aura of legitimacy, and that's what they're doing here. We're giving him all his due. That's what I'm saying.
It's a show trial. It's the most vivid show trial I've ever seen, certainly in my lifetime. And I've known the Soviet Union. I've known a number of totalitarian countries as a reporter. This beats them all. This beats them all because it's dressed up as part of a proper judicial system in an accountable democracy. It isn't. It's a show trial. It's a show trial as grim as anything that the Stalinist regime and any of the regimes in Eastern Europe or in the Soviet Union did, with people who were dissident or had annoyed the regime or whatever. This is like a caricature of it. It's also mocking so-called democracies. It mocks them. Just the very nature of this trial, that something as Kafkaesque and as unfair, deeply unfair and unjust should happen in countries claiming to be democracies. it's part of the degeneration and I think demise of democracies, the transfer of democracies to almost corporate autocracies. So corporate. That's what they become. And we're not there yet, but on the way, governments are bringing in the darkest of laws. In this country, we've just seen go through Parliament. The name of this act, I think, is the Police and Justice Act, and it basically gives the police powers to ban protest. It gives them. They've got it now, mind you, but this really gives them. In Australia, there is a so-called trial going on at the moment, much of it in secret, of a whistleblower, an extraordinary man called Bernard Colliery, and he blew the whistle on the Australian government. Rather, his client, he's a lawyer, his client, who has already been tried, get this right, blew the whistle on the Australian government, bugging the cabinet officers of the East Timorese government so that they could get advantage in ongoing negotiations of the Timor Gap oil and gas fields. Amazing. And
what a crime.
Yeah.
That's a big crime.
Yeah, this is going on. The person who did the bugging, a former member of the Australian intelligence system, known only as Witness K, has already been tried and convicted, and his lawyer is about to be convicted. I mean, this is a Kafka trial. Yeah. It's sort of like this extradition. So these are becoming part now of the landscape in so-called democracies, where governments can secretly and really inexplicably, it seems, use Kafkaesque laws to silence those who dissent.
What you bring up really worries me. I wasn't thinking about this. What's happening in Australia? If Julian wins and is released, where does he go? Does he go to Australia, where the U.S. would apply again for extradition from there? The way you're talking right now, that wouldn't be a good spot for him.
Well, I don't know, Randy. That's the answer to that. I don't know what will happen when Julian is released. I think he'd be reasonably safe in Australia if he wants to go back to Australia, if he's deported to Australia. But he may well be safest here because he can't be extradited. He can't go through all this again in the UK. I don't know. I'm guessing now. But it's a good question, and I'm sure it's exercising him and his lawyers and right now. And how do governments react if when he's freed? We don't know.
Right. He's been totally neutralized for 3 years. Maybe they let him go. He goes to Australia. They try to extradite him from Australia to the US, and then he goes through the same thing all over, and he's neutralized for another 3 years. The Australian High Court to come up with their decision.
Well, that's a threat. I don't know whether that will happen, but it's certainly a threat. I agree. What do people do right now? I think you talked about this with Roger Waters back in January.
you two were on Consortium News, and talked about what is to be done. And he was talking about direct action and organizing. I think it's picking up. The more people know about him, the more this tour here. What is to be done?
What is to be done? Randy, before I answer that, can you just give me 30 seconds? I've just got to do something here.
Okay. I'm Randy Credico. This is Randy Credico live on the fly here on 99.5 FM in New York City. We are talking with internationally renowned filmmaker, journalist, author John Pilger. John Pilger has made 61 films, beginning with Vietnam, the Quiet Mutiny back in 1970. First documentary I've ever seen on Vietnam, way back then. And his latest is the Dirty War on the NHS. And in between, forget about 59 brilliant films, including The War You Don't See, The Coming War on China. The Coming War on China is one of the greatest documentaries, and it's so prescient right now, that film. You see all these ships there in, well, you got a battleship somewhere off the China Seas right now, and you got in the Black Sea. They're all over the place. You saw this coming. You saw this coming, John.
Well, yes. I mean, I saw it coming. I mean, it's Britain is doing some truly absurd things, but very dangerous things. It sent a destroyer into the Black Sea to apparently to intimidate Russia. The Russians were sort of bemused by this and fired at it, and it scampered off. And they said they may actually fire literally at it if they try that kind of stunt next time. They're trying another stunt in the South China Sea with their new aircraft carrier, which can only operate with American planes, and there are American flown planes on it. And that's going to fly into in or near Chinese territorial waters in the South China Sea. What the Chinese do about that, I don't know. But so that's what it's come to. It's quite demeaning for this country to be doing these warlike acts to shaking its fist at these nuclear giants. It's very dangerous. They may decide that they don't wish that ship to be floating anymore and blow it up. Have they thought of that? It's dangerous, so provocative.
You talked about this, John, in an interview we did 3 or 4 years ago after you wrote a column based on the Beach by Nevil Shute. It's dangerous. I mean, the consequences of just these nuclear armed countries playing footsies violently. This one with China and Russia, they're not the ones provoking it. The UK and the US are. Yeah, it's all the provocation is coming from here, but that is the way US, UK, and its and our so-called allies, that's the way they behave these days. They're like 19th century countries, except the UK doesn't have the power it had in the 19th century. Then it had a navy that ruled the world. It no longer has that. But it's behaving as if people are wearing pith helmets and sailing gunboats around the world and frightening the natives. It's extraordinary to see. The US has behaved like this for a long time, always attacking small countries, invading small countries, overthrow their country, always defenseless countries, never countries that they
that would defend themselves. And so they're in so many ways 19th century countries. The China is a 21st century country. I saw recently excellent interview with Eric Lee, who I interviewed in the coming war on China. And it was a rare interview because Eric explained how politics worked in China and his view of the West. It was a reasonable view. You didn't have to agree with it, but it was informative and reasonable. And that kind of discussion is almost entirely absent from the media, because the media follows and panders to these imperial pretensions. Now, they're not pretensions from the United States. It's a very powerful country with more nuclear weapons than all the others, but it's not the most powerful country anymore. They know that. They know that the US Navy in the South China Sea faces a very formidable weapon in the new missile system in China. So they're being provocative. The Chinese are ready to defend themselves. I believe they won't until it looks like there is an invasion about to happen. I think that's unlikely. And the same is true of Russia, which has all these useless NATO troops up and down its border, the very border that Hitler crossed in Operation Barbarossa. So there's so much provocation from our side going on at the moment that we should all be worried, and we should all be trying to do something about it. What we do, we speak out. Right. We speak out. We go into the streets. We make it known. We take direct action. They're always frightened of people. Governments, particularly governments that lean towards being autocratic, are always frightened of their peoples. They're the real enemy, because that's what propaganda is aimed at. It's not aimed at their imagined enemies somewhere else. It's aimed at their own people. So what do? We frighten them. We go into the streets. We go to the media. We go outside the media that lie to us, and we protest. And we make our presence felt. I believe in large numbers, that can make a difference. Not immediately, sometimes not for a while, but that's us. We have to be known. We have to stand up to it. But we do what you're doing on this program, Randy. We have to hear voices that are expose this nonsense.
I'm of the opinion, and of course there are like 70 of the Assange Countdown to Freedom programs on the website, and videos and everything. And some people say that I'm obsessive, and there are a lot of political prisoners out there. And my answer is, without someone like Julian Assange out there, how are we going to know about the other political prisoners? In other words, we need him. We wouldn't know about Leonard Peltier or Mumia and other political prisoners. If Julian Assange is finally shut up forever, who's next? This is a major case. This is right now the trial of the century. Yeah.
Well, it's the Assange effect. And I described a Kafkaesque trial in Australia, the trial of Bernard Collaery. And Witness K, the two of them. That is the Assange effect. Also in Australia, the invasion of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation by the Australian Federal Police. In they went. and took away files and computers and disks and all the rest of it. This is the Assange effect. We'll see it now in many countries where people are arrested and prosecuted for thought crimes, in effect, for thought crimes, for disturbing the public order, or I don't know. If you look at some of the charges against Julian, they're so ridiculous. They've all been made up. But that's the world we're in. Now, that's why Julian's freedom is so important. Because if he gets out, then that throws this whole, it won't make the system, this system of trying to clamp down on dissidents, won't make it go away, but it sounds a warning.
Well, you know, I'm looking at the case, and I look back. You know, first it was the CPS, the Crown Prosecutor Services, browbeating Marian Nye, the Swedish prosecutor, two different prosecutors, and elongating, keeping that case alive. Yeah. What they did was totally immoral and illegal. So I thought that might bring it down when when that came out during Stefano Marizzi's lawsuit. And then that didn't happen. And then we got UC Global, the illegal spying. I thought, well, maybe that might bring this to an end. Didn't do it. Now we got the new thing. I want you to talk about the latest of the, and I don't even know his name. I forgot his name. The gentleman in Iceland who lied. Can you talk about that for a minute?
His name Thorndon, isn't he? I think his name was Thorndon. I forgot the. Well, he's blown apart. One of their so-called charges against Julian is based on this person saying Julian had invaded the Icelandic government and taken files and so on. All of it were lies. This man is a convicted fraudster, and he's now fessed up, and others have, that everything he was saying was a fabrication. So that's a good part of their case. I don't know what their reaction will be, but I'm glad he has. I'm glad that's happened, because I imagine it's going to be part of the case that we'll hear in the High Court.
It's just amazing. So you got that. The bottom line is that I don't think that it ended. I would hope so. But they don't want this guy out there. They don't want him operating. And I don't think they know what to do if they lose this case. They don't know what to do because, as I said in the beginning, they'll lose face if we're going to drop the case, and we were wrong for the last since these charges were brought up, and we appealed it. They'd have to admit that. And the government's been lying about this. They'd have to admit all of that. His real crime is exposing the war machine, the NSA, mass surveillance, the CIA. They're upset. The CIA, they're worse than elephants. They never forget. So, with the what were the Vault 7? They're not happy with Vault 7, as you know, and they're not happy with Cablegate. They're not happy with any of this stuff, right. And so those are really the not crimes, but that's the offenses he's made.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's all correct, Randy. I'm not a futurist. I can't tell what they think. I don't know what they do, but I know that Julian has to be free. He has to be free this year. Justice has to prevail. We've come to a point now. This case is so important. If Julian is extradited to the United States, it's really the end of a sense of real freedom. We can pretend, and some of us can imagine we have it, but we will no longer be able to seriously dissent. We will no longer have the right to know what governments do in our name.
We've been talking to John Pilger. Thank you very much, John. We'll be back. John Pilger, catch him at johnpilger.com, and we'll be back with a few comments after this quick musical break.
That was none other than Nils Melzer. Can you believe it? Nils Melzer playing the piano. Not for me specifically. He plays the piano. And I grabbed a piece of music by Nils Melzer, the special rapporteur on torture at the UN, who's been, a comet or an asteroid. It's just, you see Halley's Comet. You don't see people like this coming around that often. John Brown was called, Melville called John Brown a comet. By the way, John Pilger, I just can't get enough of him. I could talk to him every day. I mean, he's got such a beautiful voice. He's so knowledgeable. And go to johnpilger.com, johnpilger.com, and get his books, read his columns, and you have access. A library. It's the Library of Alexandria, going way back to the Vietnam War, all the way through to the dirty war on the NHS's most recent. Just unbelievable, all quality stuff and educational. All right, this is Assange Countdown to Freedom, Assange Countdown to Freedom.com. Please support the station. We are high yield, I think, I'd like to think, and low cost, high yield. We have never made any money off of this show, but we are in it for the long haul. And if you would like to support us, go to Assange Countdown to Freedom.com. I want to thank everybody that has been involved. It is Julian's birthday. Write him a letter. I think at the Assange Defense or Defend Assange website, you can, Courage Foundation, you can find the address. Please send them a late a birthday card, or not a card, but a letter. It would really help if you did that. And I want to thank Kelly Lane, who is down there. She's my co-producer. We'll just say that we work together on this show, and we collaborate on it. So I want to thank Kelly Lane. I want to thank the Kunstler, Sarah and Emily Kunstler, who've been helping me out with this show, managing the website, and Margaret Kunstler, who does all of the descriptions of the show and gives me a lot of show ideas, as she did from the very beginning. It's through Margaret Kunstler that I even got involved in this Assange case. And so I think that's just about it. We're going to play, this is Leonard Cohen. It's called The Partisan. It's about the Spanish Civil War, and it's pretty moving. And so we're going to go out with Leonard Cohen, and we'll talk to you soon. Let's get this done, folks. Keep it together. Keep mobilizing. Get on the street. Direct action. You know what to do. See you soon.
Poured across the border. I was cautioned to surrender. This I could not do. I took my gun and vanished. I have changed my name so often. I've lost my wife and children, but I've many friends. and some of them are with me. An old woman gave us shelter, kept us hidden in the garret. Then the soldiers came. She died without a whisper. There were 3 of us this morning. I'm the only one this evening, but I must go on. The frontiers are my prison. Oh, the wind is blowing. Through the graves the wind is blowing. Freedom soon will come. Then we'll come from shadow.
Les amants étaient chez moi, ils me disent resigne-toi, mais je n'ai pas peur. J'ai repris mon âme. J'ai changé 100 fois de nom, j'ai perdu femme et enfant, mais j'ai tant d'amis. J'ai la France entière. Un vieil homme dans un grenier, pour la nuit nous a cachés, les Allemands l'ont pris. Il est mort sans surprise.
Oh, the wind is blowing. Through the graves the wind is blowing. Freedom soon will come. Then we'll come from the shadow.